I'm Deborah Borchardt. I'm the executive editor and co-founder of the Green Market Report, which is a cannabis financial news website. I hope you read our website and sign up for our newsletters. If not, do it today. I am joined by a great panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Take it away.
I'm Lisa Williams. I am founder of the Toke Agency, and we run organic social media, brand strategy, and retention marketing for dispensaries.
I'm Jackie Gonzalez Becerra. I'm the Vice President of Revenue for Weed Maps. Been with the company about 10 years now, so just a little bit of time. And if you're not familiar with us, we're the leading cannabis e-commerce marketplace, and we work with a lot of the brands and retailers here, so happy to be here.
I'm Chris Walker. I'm one of the founders of Hoodie Analytics. Hoodie is we're a data and analytics platform that tracks product sales, performance metrics across the industry. And excited to be here. My passion is helping operators and brands make better decisions using data.
I'm Robert Beasley. I'm the CEO of Fluent, operating in the states of Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, and recently New York.
So our panel is talking about using data to improve your margins. As a financial reporter, I love data. I love to craft a story around data. We do that so that our readers don't have to, because a lot of them don't have the time to drill into these numbers and make sense of it. So we like to make sense of that data. And I think that that happens a lot within the cannabis industry. There's a lot of data available, but do you know what to do with it? And do you know how to analyze it? You've got it, now what? It's just a lot to take in. So with that said, in order to maximize your margins using data, you have to start at point A, which is the data. So let's talk about that from Hoodie. Let's talk about the kind of data that you guys have, and where do you grab that data?
We basically grab data from anywhere that we can get it. I mean, at the end of the day, we want our clients to have the most accurate and real-time availability of what's happening to their brands and their markets. So we've got integrations with POS systems. We do data mining via third parties, where we go out and scrape and crawl menus. We also have a lot of wholesale data that we integrate. So our goal is to really bring all of the data to integrate it into one platform, so a brand or an operator can basically leverage it. And you said it already, Deborah, the trick is not really the data. The data is where it starts, but it's making sure you've got process and people and plans to actually leverage it. And that I have to say is probably what we're the most passionate about.
And Weed Maps, you guys have a lot of data as well. I know, because we've worked with you before on stories using some of your data.
Yeah, like 17 years of consumer data, buying, shopping patterns, and it is all about, leveraging that data and using the right internal tools, right? Whether it is, making sure you're tracking on the supply chain, using a good POS system, e-commerce, but it is the people behind those and how we're analyzing that. And one thing that is really important too is bringing in all the external data sources. So with Weed Maps, we send out a quarterly planner to all of our clients. This has really great demographic data, buying shopping patterns, promotional trends, but you need to look at that. You need to look at Hoodie, Headset, BDSA, take all those external sources, marry it with your internal systems to really provide that data story, because everything's changing. We were just listening to a panel earlier where it's like cultivation's a year behind the consumer trends. So how do we stay in front of it? It's not only looking at your own internal data, it's going external and seeing what we can find to actually dictate that strategy.
And when we're getting this data from you guys, I like to call it hard data, because it's real. It's hard numbers. It's not, well, we did a survey. And I'm not bagging on the surveys, because surveys can serve a purpose. But you're actually scraping good, hard numbers that are reliable, right?
Absolutely. And it's scraping data is where we started, and obviously if there's a price online of $2.99 and products available for a customer to buy, it's good. It's real data. You can click on a button and go see it live. The thing that though is the challenge for data, because you said it's got to be good and reliable, is actually being able to cleanse and organize it and take what is really some of the ugliest data in the entire universe in cannabis and actually pull it all together. So you don't have 2,700 different versions of Wana strawberry gummies. You've got one SKU. And that's because you can't actually make decisions unless you know like what all of these disparate sets of data are doing together. And so that's really what we come to the table to do, is harmonize all of that really nasty data so everyone in this room could spend time actually making money and selling brands and growing their business instead of having to just do the same thing over and over again for 800 other people.
And within the cannabis industry, there are certainly dispensaries that are part of big companies. There's a lot of dispensaries that are small operators. When you get this data, it's often, I would think, kind of hard to have the time to sit down, to go through it, because the dispensary people are juggling so many balls, you're spinning plates, you've got HR issues, you've got security issues, you've got just personnel stuff, you're trying to sell a product. How is Fluent addressing that? You know, when you get the data on your desk, how are you able to drill into that and spend the time that you need to know what it means?
Yeah, so I like to think of data, as we've discussed here, as both having an internal and external component. And within the internal component, and what we've talked about so far is external. And the external represents your market challenges, and it helps you focus on what your objectives are and your competition. You got to start with your internal, though, because you've got to know yourself. You got to know what your capacities are, what your capabilities are, and you've got to all be speaking from what we call a one truth. And I represent probably in our universe the end user of all of this analytics. So internally, it has to have some statistical significance. That's the first thing I question, is what's the data set size? And what's the reliability, and what were the collection points? Did it come from one source within the company? Externally, we have really good companies out there that are able to feed us, and so we don't question the validity or statistical significance of that data as much. Now, for me, ultimately, though, it's not about a single point, because I'm not looking at a cascade of numbers and so forth and so on. In fact, no one would give me a sheet of numbers and expect me to do anything. I get pretty pictures and graphs and all of that. So it's already gone through an analytics team. Our chief revenue officer has a whole data analyst team with them, and they compress it, they analyze it, they slice it, they dice it, and they create pretty pictures for me. And I'm not as interested in one point. I'm interested in trends, the trend lines, and so forth. And we can talk about various examples of that is real life to us, but I don't need to know where we are as much as where we've been and where we're going. And so for me, you know, the slice of time is not as valuable as the ability to project. But then I have to know what we can do, what the machine is capable of doing in real time to understand, can we reach that goal? If I say we're going to reach this revenue goal, but we're going to produce this many units of this type, can we manufacture this many units? Can we grow this much weight, biomass-wise? And so you have to know yourself and your capabilities first.
So you mentioned that you have like a real life experience. Can you describe that?
Sure. So in the Florida market, we were a first mover. We're one of the first 5 licenses. I didn't come in the beginning, but I came in later in Fluent's life. And the price per ticket was about $102, $103. Which was pretty good at the time, and we were doing well, and our margins were set based on that price per ticket. That was our revenue item, and then we set our margins off of that. Got to looking at what was happening out west, got to looking at what was happening in Colorado and California as competition increased, and we could see the movement towards Florida. And so the question is, what's it going to be in 2 years? And so we ask our team internally to project, to go out and do a compression analysis of price compression and margin compression in other states. They came up with a 20% number. So in 2022, we said in 2 years, we have to be 20% more efficient than we are today. Because I'm not interested in today, I'm interested in tomorrow. Because we have to lead the company from here to looking forward, and that's what an executive's job is doing. So we turn around and we went to our inventory management, our manufacturing, through our cultivation practices, and we said we got to cut 20% out of cost of goods sold. And
that's a big number.
And that's exactly what happened. We're at $72 now, ticket price. And so if we didn't take reliable data internally and externally at that time and project it forward and anticipate the trend, then we would have been reactive to it. And being reactive to it is not where you want to be. You want to be ahead of it. And so that's how we use it in real time.
It's funny that you said about being proactive versus reactive. As a journalist, I always get asked by people about pitching, and I always say you have to get ahead of the narrative. You have to get ahead of the story. Don't send me your pitch after the event. You got to send it to me 3 or 4 days in advance. So that kind of goes into a little bit of using that data to plan ahead. And we're starting to go into the holiday season. That's a great way to capitalize on what people are looking for in the market, is being able to acknowledge and see those trends. Can we talk a little bit about that, about being able to see what's coming ahead, as far as, to your point on the weed maps, that you've got years of experience of knowing sales cycles?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have been reading a lot of different industry reports, you've seen, pre-rolls are skyrocketing, right? So what good pre-rolls are on your shelves right now? What's coming out the door, that we can package with some holiday themes potentially? Our baby boomers, higher ticket prices, but they love edibles, maybe some drinks. And so as you start to see these different trends for the holidays, it's super important to get in front of your planning cycle, which means getting your data very, very early on, and not only where's my data to help plan my strategy now? It should always be on. It should always be giving you insights, showing you opportunities and trends. We tell clients, start thinking about holiday campaigns at least September, October. Get all those creatives made, get your plan set, what marketing channels are you using. We want to know what they're doing outside of weed maps. How can we help complement the strategy? And then by the time, Halloween, we know Green Wednesday is actually a big holiday. Goes all the way through Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Those are big, big holidays. It just continues on. So be prepared, have all those things ready. A lot of us have, creative teams and legal teams we have to run stuff by. So by the time those start, you guys have all your stuff A/B tested, ready to go. It's very, very important you get in front of that holiday sales cycle early, and especially if you can have some excellent data, and you heard about Dutchie 2.0 earlier, personalization is going to be really critical. So all those people that are looking for different, buying experiences, you want to upsell them on some new product based off of their experience, send them a message that relates to them. So if you have, a database and you're like, oh, all these folks bought edibles, let's send them some cool drinks that I have, or, these people are buying our, super fresh, live resin rosin, let's show them some great concentrate brands we have. Don't try to, throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks with a broad holiday campaign or any campaign. Actually make a few different ones pertaining to your audience and the data you have.
Can you charge more for a holiday item? Were people willing to pay a little bit of a higher price for that limited time offer type product?
From what we see, I think that everyone's very still price driven and promotional driven at that time especially, but the cart sizes are bigger, and so they're buying more things. But I don't know exactly if the price per item has increased. Maybe you have some of those answers, Chris.
The answer is yes, you can charge more. Honestly, you've got to make sure that you're tying your price, your promotion, your assortment into your strategy, and to Jackie's point, that you understand your consumers, so that because listen, the same people that are coming in, if you got a dispensary, maybe in a location where you have a lot of people that are older and not so well-to-do, and have the people across the street that have a lot of money and they're buying. And guess what? These people are buying very different products when they come in the door. Some are price sensitive, some are not. And so you've got to make sure that you've got the right mix and the right price and the right assortment to cater to those different demographic profiles, because they're not. It's not like a cookie cutter, peanut butter spread, situation. If you could take the hoodie data, slice any market by what are the top brands amongst affluent consumers, what are the top brands amongst less affluent consumers, and they're very different, guys, very different. And yet most people, I think, in this room are not even looking at that data. They're going in, knocking on a door and say, hey, what do you want? What do you want to buy? I've got everything for you. And the reality of it is, You know, you should know which products are going to sell at this dispensary that you're knocking on doors, so it doesn't just sit on the shelf.
And I would think, as a dispensary customer, I certainly have my favorite dispensaries that I like to visit, and I have reasons why I like to go to them. But I tend to be a repeat customer at some of those dispensaries. So we can learn a lot from returning customers and loyalty programs, right? We haven't really got into the loyalty programs, and that mines a lot of information, right?
So I think everybody's talking on a macro level, and you could really go into a micro level with your data and really understand your customer. How often are they coming in? What kind of products are they buying? How can you, to Jackie's point, suggestive sell and upsell and package and bundle things together? And then how can you hit them where they're at? So they come in and you send a welcome message and you give them bonus loyalty points. They come back and they bring a friend and you give them more loyalty points. It's their birthday and you give them more loyalty points. So you're not just driving discounts and racing to the bottom. You're actually giving them a reward to keep coming back to you and making your brand the go-to brand or the go-to dispensary.
Do you find that is sometimes a misconception, that people worry, if I do a loyalty program and I'm giving all these discounts, it's going to hurt my margins?
Discounts are going to hurt your margin. Loyalty points are not going to hurt your margins.
Do you have an example of that? I mean, you and I talked about that, where you said that you had a case study on that.
We do have a case study on that. And so here's what's going to happen. You have your customers coming in, and if you offer them a discount, they're going to get used to the discounts, right? That's what you're going to be known for, is the discounts. And then they're going to race to the other store because now they have a discount. And then now you have a discount. And then they're going to keep racing back and forth. And how you build loyalty is you give them rewards for keeping them. And dispensaries always want to go after new clients, but what about keeping the ones coming back that you have and returning time after time after time? So if you're rewarding them with loyalty and you're taking all of this data that you're using and you're mining all of this data and you're going, what kind of customers am I coming? Are you marketing to a rec customer? Are you marketing to a medical customer? Are you marketing to females? Are you marketing to males? You know, who's your demographic? Who's your segment? Taking all this data and figuring that out so that you could market to the right person at the right time and get them to keep coming back.
I went to a dispensary and they had wanted my husband to sign up for a loyalty program because they were going to be given Knicks tickets they were going to have Knicks tickets for their I don't know, the customers.
The giveaway.
Yeah, it was a giveaway, and
you have to get
he was
creative.
like, Knicks tickets? Yeah.
We talked to one of our clients.
You're thinking, what did that cost them? $300 to buy a couple of Knicks tickets? Well, probably $350 to buy a couple of Knicks tickets.
And who wants to sign up? Everybody, right?
Everybody.
We talked to a customer. They were one of our clients, and we were like, give away concert tickets. I mean, they were in Boston, right? It's a college town, and there's a bunch of concerts coming to town. So give away concert tickets. It doesn't have to be points to buy products that are in your store or swag. It can be something. I mean, we talked to one of our clients about giving away a car. It's think outside the box.
Chris, we were talking about Hoodie and how a lot of times what happens is, like I was saying, like you've got the small dispensary owner, they're wearing many hats. It's hard to sometimes take that data and spend the time to drill down into it. How do you guys kind of help facilitate that process of, I got all this great data, here you go, guys, and then they're like, yeah, thanks, I've got a spreadsheet, now what do I do? How do you make it easier for people to make those decisions based off that data?
We give them access to the Hoodie application, and whichever way it. No,
just log in.
Yeah, just log in. No, I mean, listen. I'm very much a people process side of things. You can have a great data library, but if you don't have the tools and you don't have the accountability and you haven't set the KPIs to say, hey, if you do these things, we're going to make more money, and you're going to keep your job and get a big bonus. Like, and if you don't do that and you don't have that, then yes, it can get overwhelming. So one of the first things I tell anybody is like, you've got to define your strategy, right? So if you're there's a very good local operator here in Chicago. They have very specific KPIs for their store managers, and the store manager gets a report every single day, and they know they have to have X amount of sales of first party, and they've got to hit this margin target. They know their KPIs, so they're not overwhelmed, right? So you've got to make sure that you define the KPIs, you keep it simple so that every person has the chance to be successful, right? And it's one of the common mistakes you make in a rapidly growing industry is, you put someone in a sales job or in a store manager job, and you expect them to be able to do 900 things, which, a couple people can do, but the majority of people are going to struggle. And so taking complicated tasks into bite-sized chunks so that more people have the chance to be successful is key. And we try to facilitate that through the Hoodie app, where we can serve up bite-sized nuggets of information when you need it, so you don't have to feel overwhelmed in this library.
So with Fluent, you mentioned you were in Florida, but you're in New York too now, and that's a new market. What was the data telling you about these new operations that you're taking on? Because clearly, it's got to be two really different customers. I mean, obviously, Florida's a medical market. New York is adult use. What did you learn from getting some of the data on these New York properties?
So
Tell us your secrets.
It's interesting because Chris actually touched on one of the secrets to being successful is develop a culture of data-driven decision-making. Humans are incapable of making anecdotal decisions on large data sets. We would go to one of our store managers and say, "What's your busiest day?" They'd say, "Oh, Friday afternoon." "Well, it looks like it's Tuesday." And they would go, "Oh, wow, I never knew." And so getting your personnel trained to be data-driven decision makers is a cultural shift. So giving them the tools and access is important. You got to decide how much access do I want to give data to? What levels? Certainly a store manager. So then you asked me about New York and what did we use to make our decisions about the company internally? Not much, because they were an anecdotal decision-making company. They were a Gen 1 company, and they felt their way through it. Cultivation is guilty of feeling their way through cultivation an awful lot. And so if you can accomplish one thing, it's change the culture of your company from anecdotal decision-making to data-driven decision-making, and then give them the tools and decide what tools they need. Don't overwhelm them, but what tools they need. Your store manager should have a certain portions of criteria, and Chris just mentioned it, in a report every single morning, and they should learn to look at it and make decisions on it. And when you go into your store, you should say, "What were your sales yesterday? What were your sales on pre-rolls yesterday?" And all of a sudden, they start thinking data and so forth. So when we come into a New York market and buy the company we bought, we can't trust anything that has been done, because it was all done by the seat of your pants. And it was all done based on anecdotal. And that is very much how a 1.0 cannabis company, whether retail, integrated, or otherwise, operates. And if you want to make the step to the next level, you've got to change that culture. And you've got to start becoming a data-driven company.
Robert, we should hang out more.
Can I speak to that? Because, like Robert's saying, if you think Friday is your busiest day and the data says that Tuesday is your busiest day, then why are you going to send out deals on a Tuesday? Or why are you going to send out specials on a Tuesday if you're already getting people coming in the door on a Tuesday? So looking at that data and figuring out when is the best day to sell whatever product or deal that you're going to leverage for that week.
How do you guys address resistance to data? Because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I know what you're saying. Look, early days cannabis founders, it is a lot of fake it till you make it. It is a lot of winging it. You're on a wing and a prayer. You're just trying to keep the lights on and the doors open. And so sometimes the decision making is just
Flying by your cedar pants.
You're building the plane as it's flying. But do you run into resistance with people? They're like, no, Friday's my day. It's Friday. And how do you address that?
Well, they're employees. And so we hope to help them by showing them the light and proving it out. And so one of the things you do when you're trying to transfer, it's really honestly a culture issue.
Well,
And
that's
so
what I'm saying.
the
That's a
minute
big
you
shift.
start proving it to them, and you start standing there and showing that your charts actually work. And one of the things our data group does that's really good is what we call actualization. And so, they continue to hone in on the precision and accuracy of their charting. And so once you get that chart, you're projected overlying your actual every single day throughout the hours of the day, and you see the dotted line being covered by the solid line, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is working. And so I know next Tuesday at 3 o'clock I'm going to sell this. And so they have to just become believers in reliance on it. It's a tool, and it's a tool that for my purposes, the more simple and graphic and everything you can make it. You can take someone in the back office can look at large data sets and see it. But if you want to put it on the front line, and I represent the front line at one level, but the store manager's a front line on another level, it has to be what we call a cockpit chart. We have to say, you need 4 different screens that show 4 different dynamics in a graphic form, and it's a quick look. And so it's quick, easy, I'm trending up, I'm trending down, I'm this. And it literally is what a pilot would use in a cockpit chart. And so you've got to have it in a presentation format that works and it's digestible. And then they have to rely on it. And then you've got to keep reminding them to rely on it, because they'll drift. They will, absolutely. And so next thing you know, you go in there and go, well, why are you doing this? Well, I kind of feel like the customers like this. Okay, what's that word you just used? You feel? Okay, we don't feel. We look at what does the data show? And we ask that question, what does the data show? And sometimes they go, we don't know, you didn't give us that report. All right, that's our error. We haven't given you the tools. And so we go back and we compile and we craft a report and come in there and we look at that dynamic. And it's very organic. You continue to kind of stick and move as to each data point that you're looking for. Customer wait time. Customer wait time. How long are your customers waiting before they get served? We think about 5 minutes. Okay, it's 12. 5 and 12 are different, and it's different when you're on that customer versus the other. And so, perception is difficult, and we keep showing them where, no, data shows otherwise. And what you realize eventually is what I said in the very beginning, is that you're human. And humans, the way we think and observe this world is to condense and to average and to overprocess kind of thing. Well, we're not robots, we're not computers, and so we have to rely on actual analytics and get it fed to us.
For the most part, analytics can cross state lines. Do you guys have any issues with, obviously, cannabis, different rules and regs in almost every state? Do you ever run up against those problems? I mean, probably with loyalty programs for sure, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's certain states you can't send loyalty programs. They don't even need them. You can't. They have certain laws and regulations as far as like what you can and can't send. Same with social media. Obviously, we know that. So yeah, there's different ways that you have to regulate in every state.
How do you get around that?
We have to learn what the different regulations are. And we work with the dispensaries, and a lot of the dispensaries that we work with have all the regulations and SOPs ready for us to review and look at, and we have to stay compliant. That's one of the things we have to do.
And we're all trying to figure it out together half
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
like,
I think-
Ohio just opened.
Right.
And they're like, can we run these ads? Like, what about those ads? I'm like, I think we can do these ones. Like, let's try it, And it's absolutely something that when these new markets open up, you just have to, like, stay involved, go to the association meetings, like, talk to the people on the ground, be on the ground, and understand the nuance of the regulations, because they can come bite you. Like, they're giving big fines in Ohio right now for having like a food truck outside or the wrong word in your advertisement, right? And so it's not just maybe the wrong consumer message, but it could really, be a financial issue.
Our real-time example, Florida to New York, is discounts. You can give discounts in Florida, you can't give them in New York. So now you have a pricing model in Florida that doesn't work in New York. And so now we're restructuring a pricing model, and that's a real-time example of adapting the same product, same margins, because you got to hold margins. That's the key. The margin is the immovable object. Everything else has to move.
And if you're familiar with dispensaries, ultimately at the end of the day, it is a retail operation. You're selling a product, margins start to get thin, and you've got a lot of expenses to run those dispensaries. So it's really critical that you watch those margins, watch them closely, but you can improve them by using data, right? And that is all the time we have. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and
Thank
listening to
you.
our panel.
Thank you.
Got great people here. Check them out.